I can already tell we got a good one today.
Yep.
I mean, we literally could have started the podcast just 5 minutes ago. Bernie and I are going back and forth, lots and lots to talk about this week. And you know what? Maybe a really good time for our guest.
It's a perfect time for our guest, but I don't think he's going to give us an answer.
I was going to say, I'm not sure we'll get much of an opinion from him.
Our guest is very good at not really giving an opinion while giving an opinion. So.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll try, though. We'll try.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so super excited. Again, for those of you who don't follow the sport as much as we do, next week we head down to Corpus Christi. Bernie, it seems like it's been forever since we've had a national event. I mean, it really does. It's been a long time. And normally we have our first big national, our first big major around the Super Bowl. But this year we did the shootout instead and had Super Bowl. So still have not had our first major cornhole tournament. So it's coming up in Corpus Christi next weekend. And I cannot wait to get down there. I mean, seriously, like the anticipation is killing me. The storylines, there's so many names like Fisher Hamilton. I mean, I cannot wait to watch this kid play. Is he going to be Mark Richards? Is he going to steal the show and be Rookie of the Year? I mean, I cannot wait to watch some of these names that we talk about all the time. But okay. So let's get into this, though, because this is going to be one.
Hold on. First thing. This will air tomorrow on Thursday night. Today, Wednesday, that we are taping this, is the initial drop of our video game. Came out today. PlayStation comes out Friday. They think Friday's cleaner. Whatever. But today is the drop of our video game. So that's been a buzz online from some of the players.
Now, are you one of the voices?
I know. It's killing. The people are really upset. Actually, the only negative I've read so far is everything's great. The game is awesome. Where's Jeff?
Yeah, I was never asked. I was never invited.
They knew you would be too expensive, buddy.
Oh, I don't know. To be part of a video game?
I mean, they got me for free, man.
I was gonna say I'm not even sure I would have charged for that.
They got me for free on that one. So
you know what? I would have done it for like a small, a very, very small like royalty thing, maybe to where if it blows up and makes $1 billion, I get a small.
I hear you.
Small cut. I wouldn't have charged them. I wouldn't have said, pay me $100,000 to voice it. I wouldn't have done that.
I actually had a friend of mine. It's like, oh man, that's so cool. You're going to be in a video game. I was like, yeah, but I'm getting zero out of it. So, I mean, it's cool, but there was no overhead with me. You know what I mean? So,
but the thing with the sport though, and this is why, I mean, we don't make a lot of money, obviously. And again, for something like that, I probably wouldn't even charged for it. But you hope that what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? So you hope if something like this blows up, that's just better for all of us, right?
Yeah. Look,
if the league is making more money, we all will make more money eventually.
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't read a lot of the reviews. I think some people are struggling. Trey's already put out like a cheat sheet on the pro page online. I was like, man, we're 5 minutes in. There's already cheat codes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because it's a hard game. I think it's meant to be very difficult, and I think some of the players are like, man, I can't score. And
that's funny.
Yeah, and so I think some of them are having time with it, but hopefully everyone likes it. But yeah, they were missing their McCarriger.
Well, I for sure would have done it. Bummed that I wasn't on it, but I'm excited for you guys, and I'm sure it's going to take off. I mean, with the popularity and all the kids playing. I mean, look at Ryan Windsor. We just had him on a couple of weeks ago. He's a big time gamer. He couldn't wait for it to come out because he's hoping to be able to take that to like a competitive level.
Apparently he's unbeatable. Yeah, apparently he's unbeatable in the game. Like if you're playing against him,
shocking.
Yeah, you can't beat him.
Oh, like his character in the game.
Yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that's funny. But yeah, let's get into what we were talking about earlier because I think it's much more poignant than what we. Yeah.
So we had a conference call today, just pulling back the curtain, and one of the announcements coming up in the national is that we are actually going to have a DJ, and she, I think they said it's a she.
It's Paola.
She's not. Yeah. You're still going to be doing your crowd hype stuff, but she's going to be doing all the music behind the scenes, and which I think is pretty cool. And I've mentioned this before that at NBA games, they just very subtly will put in just kind of a beat right underneath the players while they're in transition from offense to defense. I love that. I think it's awesome. So we'll see how this goes for cornhole, because, getting back into a topic that you and I have touched on that's been pretty sensitive is, where do we want the future of this sport to go as far as live competition? I mean, it's gotten, I feel like, and I think a few of you have said that, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I feel like the sport has, it's gotten quiet, and maybe it's just small sample size because
No, it has. It has just one time a year for the World Championships, and the one event that you saw in Nashville, really the only time the crowd's hyped and really into it. And even with the big crowd that we have at the World Championships, it can get pretty quiet, which can be cool because of the tension if there's a big explosion of noise later. But if it just stays quiet, it doesn't, it translates poorly to TV.
Yeah. Right. So just trying to make it, trying to build on that excitement. So I'm all for that. I think that's really going to be at least a good experiment to see how it kind of feels and sounds like, because there have been many times where it's just dead. But I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad. In golf, it's fine. It's quiet. All you can hear is the birds chirping, right? But I'm not sure that's where we want to be.
Yeah, a lot of, just to let it further behind the curtain, a lot of that's been thrown on me. Like, you need to do more to get the crowd hype. I'm like, what is it exactly that you want me to do? I don't really understand. Like, I don't think we need someone, like, I don't want to be campy. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be silly. And because I think that takes away from the sport. I think that makes the sport even have less credibility than it has now. Like, you start getting someone out there being campy and silly, well, then there's no reason to take the players and their talent serious.
I totally agree with you. I'm not sure what camping means, but I agree with what you're saying.
I mean, being silly, and like, it's been told to me, like, when someone's a timeout, you need to run out there and put a mic in their face. Like, what are you thinking? It's like, being kind of silly. I just don't like, they're taking it serious, but you're wanting me to not take it serious. Like, what is it? Do you want just a 1 hour, 2 hour comedy act? Like, what is it? Like, there's only so many things you can say to try to get a callback response from a crowd, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know personally what to do to get the crowd more hyped. Like, look, there's certain times they're going to be into it, and everyone's maybe a little, libations have been flowing all day and everyone's into it. But there's other times people are tired, and you can tell because our crowd at this point is mostly players.
And they've been playing all day. Yeah. Qualifying, playing.
Yeah. They're angry for not playing well. They're too drunk sometimes because they've been drinking all day, and they're just plain tired. It's a grind. And so sometimes it is tough to get people wound up. Now, I'm all for hearing what I should be doing, but I have pushed back on a few things, like we talked about off air, that at the Spencer McKenzie Throwdown, Rob Chismark is always talking during the game. I think that's fine for Rob. I don't think I would do that very well. And from the small sample size of players I've had come up and talk to me afterwards, I don't think they like it all that much, because it's kind of like in golf. Like, golf, like, people say they're not, there's not enough noise in golf. Like, I don't know if you've ever watched the Ryder Cup, but they'll encourage the crowd to scream constantly. And when it's white noise, you can still concentrate through that. The problem is when it's all quiet and then someone yells right when you're, which is what they do in basketball for free throws. So I don't know where we need to be there.
Yeah, see, that's my point. We're so caught right now as a sport into what we want to be. And my thoughts, with all due respect to Rob Chismark, because Rob's great personality, I don't like that. I don't want running play-by-play at a live event. If I'm at an NBA basketball game, like I told you, I don't need someone narrating in throughout the PA system. Steph Curry goes down low to Draymond Green, back to Steph Curry for three, got it. Whatever.
Kind of like the And One experience. Remember when the And One mixtapes were out? There was always the guy with the microphone doing that during I don't like that either. I think that makes it less. It takes away the integrity of the sport, because
I do like the player identification, though. I like it, like when Steph hits a three, you hear the PA guy say Steph Curry for three, and the whole crowd goes crazy, whatever. That I like, but I don't need or want run, at least I don't think I do, want running commentary throughout the PA system the whole time I'm watching a sporting event, and I don't think I'd like that for cornhole either.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting what the thought process is. I mean, I agree that there are times we need the crowd. Look, for those of you at home, go YouTube or whatever professional darts in Europe and watch how insane those crowds are for darts. It's bonkers. It's crazy. But the PA guys only screaming out 180 or whatever if someone hits it. You know, the play-by-play guys on TV are doing what you guys do. But for whatever reason, those fans go out of their mind. Yeah. And I'm sure alcohol has something to do with
it. Well, and again, and I'm not gonna go down this road because we do every single week, but our game has evolved. Darts is easy to cheer for. You got guys from 20 or 30 feet away that are literally throwing laser beams into a specific point,
12
right?
feet, 11 feet. Yeah, not even that far.
Whatever, really. Whatever it is, right? But they're really good. And again, that's something that I can't do at home. That's something I can't do at the bar, right? And it's exciting to watch. Every shot is exciting because every shot has to be in, right? Our sport's not like that anymore. And again, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but Bernie, you know where I'm going.
I know exactly where
the first bag misses. I know it doesn't miss. I don't want emails. I get it. It's a level 1 block, level 2 block. I get it. It's not a miss. To the TV viewer, the first bag misses. Then the second bag may go in behind the first one and misses the hole again, right? Mm-hmm. Then the third one tries to airmail. That one misses, goes off the back of the board. Next one, a roll shot, flops off to the right. It's not darts. It's not every shot is not going to matter. It's more like baseball. Like your analogy I thought was terrific. You know, you got Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, right? Roger's not going to throw a strike every time. If he does, he's going to give up a home run every time. He's going to try and set him up. You know, so I don't think anyone who wants to compare the live, you know, excitement experience of darts versus cornhole, it's two completely different games fundamentally.
The thing is,
no defense in darts. No defense.
But when they miss, they actually miss. Like in our sport, your quote unquote miss, your block is an actual strategic shot that technically is tougher.
I get it.
But like in darts, when they miss the triple 20, that's a miss. That's a flat out miss.
But there was so much on that one throw though, and every throw is like that. I mean, that's exciting to watch. There's no doubt about it.
But I think Europeans are different, especially the English when you get them riled up all day, right? They're going to be loud. Okay, they're going to, because it's a bar. You know, the crowd is a bar crowd. You know what I mean? It's not. Yeah. It's not. You know,
20,000 drunk people drinking pints all day.
Yeah, I mean that's who that crowd is, and they're having a blast. But it's I don't know where we go. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping the DJ experience helps. I'm sure we're going to have some players that don't like it, because I imagine she's not going to be playing their favorite music all the time. And then I'm sure we're going to hear all about it, right? Mm-hmm. I think most people won't care one way or the other. I think they'll like the fact that it doesn't get that quiet, because I've always felt this: if there's a little noise, people feel like they have to be a little louder. And when it's quiet, people feel like they have to be a little bit more quiet. And so
it creates a buzz. Yeah,
it does. And so hopefully that does kind of create and build energy within the room that, you know, it's not, I doubt it will be a very loud amount of noise when there actually is gameplay going on. Mm-hmm. But I'm interested. I'm interested to see where we go from that. And I'm interested to see, you know, because I've had a few things, said, you need to be doing this, which is great. I mean, I'm all for it. Tell me what I need to do better. But there are certain things that I think make it a little silly. And I don't know if we need to be silly if we're trying to sell a sport. You know,
I totally agree with you.
If we're all going to be on the same page and say, hey, this whole thing's silly and let's just make fun of it, it's a whole different story. I doubt the players get on board with that. But I digress.
No, I'm with you. I guess the word that comes to my mind is organic. It has to happen organically. And that's another great thing though, is that with this sport, it kind of reminds me of NASCAR. And NASCAR is still like this. Like, they are not afraid to change the rules at any time.
Sure.
You know? And that's what's so great about being a new league and a new sport. I mean, you know, again, to you and to Trey and Stacy, who've been doing this for a long time, Josh, Kat, I mean, it's been a part of their life for years, right? Mm-hmm. But it's still such a new sport. Yeah. And I thought Trevor Brooks, when we had him on, kind of alluded to that just a few weeks ago when we had Trevor on. Yeah. It's a new sport. So if we have to tweak things here and there, we can do it. And I think that's the fun part about being kind of a part of this whole platform as we build it up.
And it's also part of I think the beauty of the youth movement in the game is that they're not worried about change necessarily, right? They're teenagers. You're like, okay, cool, I'll just adjust to that. The middle-aged players that we have, they're so change averse, right? Like they want no part of change. Like every time that we change something, it's a complete disaster and it's going to ruin the sport, according to some of our older, and it doesn't.
No.
I mean, for example, to your point about how great change is, and we're in that area. I mean, think about the shootouts and round limited games.
Yes.
I remember when that
Good
idea
example.
came up, people were like, "That'll never work. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." And now it creates some of the most, pressure-filled moments in our game. So change is good at times.
Yeah, I just think it's so great that we can be so creative and I don't know, just kind of play with different things and experiment with different things. So we'll find out. So normally at this point in the show is when we go to our guest, but the guest has left the building. Oh, he's there. He's back. Okay, good. I thought he walked out on us because you know what? It wouldn't surprise me because he has way better things to do the week before the first national.
Very busy man. I'm actually surprised he said he could do it today.
I know.
Very
I feel bad.
man.
We probably should have had him on last week, but so our guest this week is the Chief Operating Officer of the American Cornhole League. So we're going to really pull back the curtain today. His career spanned over 30 years of creating, producing, and managing live events, tours, and video productions. Again, a great guy to have on to talk about some of this stuff today. He has held key management positions with leading sports and entertainment companies, including Clear Channel, SFX Sports, Jefferson Pilot Sports, Raycom Sports, where he was director of operations. Now, prior to joining the ACL, he was a senior vice president at Clear Channel Entertainment, which is now Live Nation, where he managed the company's sports events, tours, television productions. And over his career, he has been responsible for creating and managing many innovative, successful events and television programs for CBS, Fox, NBC, ABC, and ESPN. He is, it's funny because I just met Fred about 6 months ago before he and I both joined the American Cornhole League. So we had just gotten to know each other just on a completely separate business transaction. And then our lives came back together, crashing back together here in the ACL. So a great friend. He's been great to work with and so critical to the success and the movement of the American Cornhole League. Please welcome to BoarderLine for the first time. You know him, you love him, Fred Buchero.
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction, Jeff.
Isn't he the best at that?
It's a pleasure to be on with you guys. You're two of my favorite guys. I love you too and enjoy working with you, and have been a big supporter and a big fan. Stephanie, my wife, and I listen to the podcast every week. We're on the road a lot, so it's always on the radio, so to speak. But it's always a pleasure to listen to you guys. You do an awesome job.
I think we're up to 16 people
that's
watching
right.
now.
Well,
so
if you add his wife Stephanie, that's 17.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate you and Stephanie being two of the 17. So thank you. Hey, Fred, first of all, thank you so much. You're obviously
is my camera out of focus? It looks terrible.
I don't know. My eyes have gotten so
a little
bad
out of
all
focus,
of a sudden.
Fred.
So it looks a little blurry to me, but it could be my eyes.
Yeah, it does look blurry as hell to me. But anyway, I get very particular about that. This is my area, television and video, and I got to have everything just right. And if it's not, I'm not happy with it. So apologize Fred, if there's any technical problems.
On a positive note, I've always dug your style, man. You look like such like a West Coast, just like awesome guy, doesn't he? He's got the cool glasses, the facial hair, the hair back. I mean, I've just always thought you just look like freaking just sweet Hollywood.
Fast money Fred, dude.
Perception is reality, right?
Right, yeah.
And I did move here from California back in the 80s. So
there you go.
I was actually born and raised in Ohio, but ended up in California after graduating from college and then moved here in the 80s. So I got some California in me.
Yeah, still got that West Coast style.
That's
right.
All
right. So first off, thank you so much for being on the show. Bernie and I were just talking about, you probably heard us, but yeah, of all the weeks to have you on, this is probably not the best week. You guys have so much going on next week, but thank you so much for taking a half hour of your time to join us. This is going to be a crazy week, and we are so excited to be down in Corpus Christi in Texas next week for the first national. It's about time. It feels like it's been forever. Now, this is the other thing. I was just gonna joke with Fred and make sure. Hey, are you sure that you're going to be okay in the HQ, because the Wi-Fi, right, has been like HQ, in our conference call today.
The Wi-Fi is
the Wi-Fi has been an issue, and I was on calls earlier today, and it was a little shaky. I think you were on the production call earlier, so you'd think we have better Wi-Fi than we do, but it challenges us every now and then. We think we're getting to the root of the problem, though.
All right, Fred, first question. So Bernie and I were just talking about this in the conference call this morning. It was great to hear some of the changes. We're going to add a DJ, so there's going to be some music that's going to be played kind of in between rounds to kind of hype up the crowd, and then maybe lower the music. I use the analogy kind of like in the NBA when they have like a beat, in the transition. But it'd be kind of cool. But Fred, just kind of on a larger issue. This has been fun for me as kind of a little bit of an outsider, but this has to be a lot of fun for someone like you, who's the COO of the league, right? I mean, you've been growing with this. Like, I know it's frustrating at times because we don't always get everything right, but how much fun has it been looking back on it for you all to be able to put your creative juices together and make changes when you want to make changes and try and grow this thing together? I think it's been great.
Well, you made the point earlier, the ability we have as a growing league, as an evolving league, is to be able to iterate and make changes and adapt. And I think that's very important because many organizations get stuck in a certain way, and it doesn't necessarily reflect, the attitudes or the interests of the general public or whoever we're trying to attract. So we're always got our eyes and ears out to things that we can improve to make things better. And certainly in the area of live events, is where a lot of our focus is right now. You pointed out earlier, we want more excitement in the arena. We really, our biggest year was COVID, and I hate to say it because, we couldn't have audiences. So, but what we did get was a lot of TV viewers, because we were the only live sports on TV, and ESPN bumped us up to primetime spots on the main network, and that was a great benefit to us. And it showed them what kind of audience we can deliver, but it also showed us, where we need to focus our interests and energies going forward, and that is creating more of a fan experience for the live event, for the live audience. I've been involved in sports events and tours, my entire career, and touring everything from indoor soccer events to figure skating to gymnastics and then to larger stick and ball and golf and that sort of thing. And I've always had an interest, certainly on the TV side, making good television, creating compelling stories and visuals and images. But it's also about the audience, people that are there on the sidelines or people that are there in the stands, because that's really, where the energy is. And so we've got a lot of interest, a lot of focus on that right now, and particularly now with COVID lifted, where we can bring people in. And into the events. So that's the DJ, you mentioned that's one of the steps in that direction. But we've redesigned our footprint for our event and around our broadcast to allow for more seating and more of a spectator-friendly type of environment. Bernie, you do an awesome job on the announce side. I remember when I first met you in Myrtle Beach when we were carrying our entire tournament in 2 trailers behind maybe a couple pickup trucks, right? Yeah. And now we're getting a 53-foot, semi, so these are the types of things that excite me. But we talked about it then. I told you then, you need to be on the air. You need to be talent. I recognize your strength.
Tell it like it is, Fred. Tell the people what they want to hear, Fred. Tell them the truth.
I encourage, because I work with talent a lot. That's part of what I've done. I've been involved in the business and encourage that. And Jeff, there's very little I can tell you. You're just the best and marvelous voice and a great interviewer. You get people to say things. You draw things out of people. Through conversation. That's the best way to do it. You're not drilling questions in. What do you think of that? How do you do that? But it's involved. It's a conversation, and that makes it really comfortable. So you guys do a great job. I'll just say that. but we're trying to get more
well,
audience.
we now know what we're going to cut for the tease for this week for social media. All that great stuff that Fred just said about me.
That is going in.
I'll make sure to cut out the stuff about Bernie though.
Yeah, always.
But Jeff, you mentioned it too. I met you. I was in esports at the time. I was doing some esports consulting and working with Major League Gaming and a couple of big esports outfits, which I loved. That was fun. But a lot of high pressure stuff. It's video games, it's fast, it's this and that coming at you. And Jeff and I were talking to the same organization out in New York, and the head of that group said, well, you guys ought to talk to him. He connected me with Jeff and Jeff with me. And we met each other at a Starbucks, I think, somewhere, and then set up a lunch appointment. And it was like, I got to know about you, Jeff, and who you are and what you do, and you got to know me. And we said, well, let's see where this thing goes. The next thing I know, I'm in Myrtle Beach doing it with the ACL, doing the college tournament, and Jeff shows up, and it's like, oh my God. I just love things like that because they're meant to be. Kismet, I'm all about that. And I mean,
cornhole, Fred, in all honesty, cornhole wasn't even in our minds.
Not even in our minds.
The first time we met.
No.
That was so far from anything that we were talking about.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly right. So I love when things come together. I'm sorry I couldn't get on earlier when you asked me when I was traveling back from I guess Arizona at the time. But Bernie, you'll appreciate this. When I first moved here to North Carolina, and I got out of the Bay Area in San Francisco because I couldn't afford to live there, and especially to raise a family there, and I was just starting that out. And came to work for Jefferson Productions here in Charlotte, and about a year, and I was producing commercials. That's what they hired me, as a commercial producer. First commercial I ever produced here was the Tidy Bone Man, with Larry Sprinkle.
Nice.
Larry's one of our on-air talent here at Channel 6, and this is fun. But commercials are just, it's a lot of work, a lot of money, just to fool people. Hey, look at this, and this is really food, but it's not. It's all plastic. So I really couldn't get into that. And that was right when Jefferson JP Sports was partnering up with Raycom and got the rights to ACC basketball. Well, that's all I needed to hear, because that's where I was going. And starting out, in the 80s with Michael Jordan and James Worthy and Sam Perkins and Dean Smith. I mean, you couldn't have asked for better stuff.
So was Jim Thacker still doing the play-by-play back then?
That was just that. Yeah, he was kind of just going
out. Fade now. Okay, I got you.
Yep. Because it became a bigger money. There were the originals for sure, Thacker and Packer.
Yep.
But once Raycom got it and JP got involved in it, we started regional sports syndication, and that had never been done before. So we were literally going around to TV stations in the regions of the ACC in this case, and clearing our broadcast on their stations so they would preempt the network. This is before the networks could even do regional feeds. They were doing one national feed, and that's it. So they were not happy about us up in New York, but we had a couple of really strong affiliates, and we were delivering better numbers than they could on the network games, and that really started things going. And I think that's what really got me really started my career, was working in sports. I just love sports. It's all the drama, all the excitement, all the unknowns you could ask for on the court, on the floor, at that time. Commercials and entertainment. You got to do scripts, and you got to plan this, and it takes 3 hours to shoot one shot. Or you create reality programming. Reality programming in sports is the original reality programming, right? You don't know who's going to win, what's going to happen. And I just love that about the nature of working in sports. So ever since then, it's been nonstop for me in my career, going from like all the sports that I mentioned, and including NASCAR and even cycling and poker and then esports and now cornhole. It couldn't be a better place to end up, in a sense, because I love this job and I love this organization, and we're just beginning.
Well, Fred, all right, two things. First question actually is for Jeff. How amazing is it, Jeff, to actually have a guest that wants to talk?
I know, this is great.
So just go, Fred. But secondly,
I was just thinking, I've got way too many questions written down.
I went through your bio, oddly enough, Did you want to be a filmmaker, Fred, when you were in San Francisco? I saw that you were the San
Yeah,
Francisco Art
absolutely.
Institute. You wanted to be a filmmaker.
Yeah, I've always had creative juice in me. Some people think I'm more business, and where'd you get your MBA or where'd you get your law degree? I started this. I started out in photography. My dad was a photographer in the Marine Corps, although he wasn't professionally, and he taught me photography, and it got into my blood and became a passion. And I wanted to study more about photography and art. And the University of New Mexico had an amazing photography program with a lot of great photographers and instructors from back east at George Eastman House in Rochester, and some great historians. And so and the quality of light in New Mexico, a lot of things were factoring into my choice of that. And so I got involved in doing photography and getting my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in photography. And while there at the university, I taught some film classes and then got a scholarship to the San Francisco Art Institute on filmmaking. So I thought, well, this is my big break. I'm going to graduate from college. I'm going to go out to the Bay Area, and I'm going to be, a movie maker, right?
Going to run into George Lucas and just be part of Lucasfilms,
Exactly.
be a cinematographer. Yeah.
So I got a job with. So I went to the Art Institute and got my scholarship there. And okay, I'm ready to go. Started going around the Bay Area looking for work, and went to a little company called American Zoetrope, which is Francis Ford Coppola's company. Just a little place, down in the, in the Italian section of town there, in the North Point district, and asking for a job. They're doing the apocalypse now down in the Philippines. I was hearing horror stories about what they were going through, but they said, sure, we'll bring you on, and you can be like a PA. So I worked in the studio. I got rough cuts coming in. I got different things coming in.
Wow.
And organizing materials, and then I started getting into video and worked for a video company out there. And but it's always been in my blood. I always loved visual arts.
Well, Fred, it's great to have you on because of your background in TV, and that's kind of something I want to talk to you about is the importance of cornhole on TV. And we've gotten into a debate with some of the players. As a matter of fact, we got into it with Trevor Brooks. We love the fact, obviously, that cornhole's on TV. Love our partnership with CBS and with ESPN. And kind of behind the scenes, we've been debating, do we mic the players or do we not mic the players? I love, Fred, having the players mic'd, right? But it comes with some issues sometimes. And we talked to Trevor about this a few weeks ago because Trevor is an animated guy and he doesn't use the best words when he's frustrated. And that goes through national TV, and then we get our hands slapped, and then we have to talk about this stuff again. But Trevor has talked about the fact that he feels like he can flip that switch. He feels like that this year he's going to be able to control that. He's not going to do that. I love in our sport. I think that's what makes it unique. We talked, like before you came on, we were talking about darts and how that's become unique and how the intensity and excitement behind every shot. I think one of the great things about our sport is being able to mic the players. And I really think that can help with the TV viewership and the ratings and everything, because people will really get to pull back the curtain, like I say all the time, and hear the strategy that they're talking about, hear what they're thinking about, hear their thoughts and emotions. I love that we can do that.
I think that's a great point, and I listened to the broadcast and I brought it up with some of the production people. I listened to your guys' comments because I think they're very meaningful, and how the audience perceives an airmail versus a push shot, and the way we way our players play that. But as far as like the miking, I certainly was a big endorser and encourager of that. Yeah, we've got to always be careful of of language and being able to have the delay and deal with that, which we've done a pretty good job at doing, I think. But it really gives us an inside look into the heads of some of these players, and puts us more intimately as a viewer involved in the emotions and what's going on in the court. So even though, we might, not get as much out of some than others, it's worth it when we do. And I think the more we use it and the more comfortable our players get with that process, we'll get more out of it. But I'm definitely a fan of it, and see no reason why not to continue it, for sure.
Love that.
Well, talking about that though, because remember when we did talk about this, I mentioned because I think some of the players obviously don't like being mic'd and they stop talking.
Right.
And they just don't communicate with their partner, and they don't do anything that they normally do. But if they didn't know they were being mic'd, with a parabolic mic or something like that that could be aimed at each side of the board, then I think they would forget about it. And then you might get more organic commentary. Like, is that a possibility? Is that too expensive, or do you not pick up enough, or do you also get too much of the background conversation with a parabolic mic? Is that possible?
Yeah, and you can't isolate it. You can't control it quite as much as you can the wireless mics, where you can literally control each microphone. So you got to have a little bit of control that way, where the parabolic doesn't always give you that. But the other, I think, point is that some of these guys maybe that aren't talking a lot, and you think it might be the fact they're mics. They're probably not talkative anyway. They're probably
most of them,
that demonstrative anyway. And so I'm not convinced that would solve that concern or problem. I think it's more getting used to it, getting educated, seeing how others act around it, and that familiarity. That's really our best way of working through that and getting the most out of it.
Hey, Fred, where do we want to go? We ask this question all the time. Where do we want, and by we, I mean the league and I guess most importantly, Stacy. Where do we want the league to go? Are we okay with it being quiet? Are we okay with it being like golf? Where it gets so quiet? Is it too quiet on TV? Has it gotten too quiet? Do we want it to be a little bit more, energized? Do we want a little bit more trash talk between the players? Like, where do we want the sport to be?
I'm not an extreme kind of guy, so I kind of tend to find myself more in the middle, as you know, probably. But I
Bernie
think
nailed that.
absolutely we want it to be louder, and we wanted the audience to be more engaged, and that's what we're working toward. Is elements and things we can do to encourage that, to stimulate that, because that's really the energy we're trying to create. So. During COVID, when you were out there and we were doing the broadcast with absolutely no talent, not even in family in a lot of cases, you could literally hear a pin drop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way a lot of people got used to watching it. So there was a certain, as you, I think, pointed out, kind of a mesmerizing almost cadence to watching those bags throw back and forth and back and forth. And that, I think, kept a lot of our audience and really kept a lot of people interested in what we were doing, because we were doing it without any audience. So I think we've got a nice base level of compelling content and interest around the sport itself. But what we can do is really elevate it now, I think, to create more excitement and energy around the competition itself. And that's what we're trying to create. So
I've got one.
We want it to be louder.
I've got one for you, Fred. Round limited formats. We have, instead of like boxing has ring girls, we have round girls. End of round number 1, they carry the round number 2 sign, length of the floor. Huh? Does that help?
See, I think Stacy has mentioned that before.
Dude, great minds think alike, right? I have not discussed that with him, but that would be awesome.
Well, be careful now. I'll tell you, you ought to go like the PBR guy, right? You said you don't want to be the campy out there. The PBR guy, he's literally a clown out there in the middle of the ring. If you've ever seen those events.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that at all. But I think again, we want to. It's all about scaling and doing things in a measured and deliberate kind of fashion, so we can really plan it and execute it and then measure it. And those are key. We just don't go into these things flying off the handle, and you know that.
Yeah.
I mean, what Kat does and Josh does and all the team does with the details they cover and the intricacy and of what they have to execute on. And it's so important to, as I say, plan the work and work the plan.
All right, Fred, tough question for you here. What do you feel like has been the most difficult? Like, I'd like to ask you, what's the biggest surprise, right? From when you started, but I think this whole thing is a surprise. Right. Honestly, I mean, I know it is for me. Like, I would have never imagined that we would be at this point 3 years down the road from, well, when both you and I pretty much started, that it would be this highly evolved and this many viewers and the TV contracts. So that being said, and that being a given, what's been the biggest obstacle? What's the biggest challenge that the league faces because of this growth right now?
Is scaling, actually, because there is kind of like, as we like to say, drinking through a fire hose, it's coming at us so quickly, and the growth and the demand of it, that the biggest challenge we have is growing it and scaling it properly. And by properly, I mean without losing a lot of money, without throwing a lot of resources, without wasting a lot of efforts and time and people to get there. And that's a very difficult thing to do. A lot of the problems we face outside of some of the league related things are fixed by money, frankly. You can do a lot of things with money, and you can hire a whole bunch of people to do a lot of things and this and that, but we can't do that. We're not going to do that. And just to the point that we made earlier about going from 2 trailers to a semi, that's the way we've scaled. It's taken us 2 years to get here. When I first started to work here, I had to lay out these vinyl banners and get the creases out of them, before we rolled them up to take them to these events and put them on the A-frames and
make sure people
on that dirty concrete floor back at the old office.
And
you were down there.
And at the events, make sure people with dirty shoes don't walk across them. I don't know who would do such a thing.
I know. And if you're in the event business, vinyl's a part of your life. It just is, because that's what signs are made of. But for broadcast and around that court, it was a big goal of mine when I stepped through the door to get out of vinyl and move away from that. And it took a couple years to really move up, but we have. And these LEDs that we've introduced this year are a major step in that direction. And you begin to see what value adding certain elements can really have on the look of the show and the broadcast. And it's not always what is apparent. It's always what's not apparent. So these signs they make our sponsors look good, and all of a sudden that looks good, but it also gives a nice look to our court area. It gives ambient light to come off of that to give us more reflection on the court and more ambience around that. So it's those steps and doing things like that in a measured way. Transportation has been a big problem. We're finally solving that. So it's just one step at a time, really. And where we can make big leaps, we'll make big leaps. But I've got at least a small list full of what's coming next and the next things that we'll iterate on and hopefully build out.
What do you think? I mean, one of the problems I think we have when it comes to money, and you talk about how money solves most problems, there still seems to be this perception out there of our game. Why? I mean, is it the name? Is it the players? Is it just our overall attitude as a business? What do you think, coming from the outside now that you've been here, but you've had such an extensive past in the sports business? What do you think's causing that perception?
I think it's reality. Perception is reality. So what we want to do is create a perception of, first of all, I mean, our tagline: anybody can play, anybody can win. It's a big piece of our messaging. So it's a lot of the messaging that gets out. But what we're trying to do now, and every sport does it, is tell the stories of the players. I mean, you guys do an awesome job at that. Trevor Brooks, great story. What an amazing story that kid has, Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many people I've talked to along the way. Cornell's changed their lives, literally. And there's, Jimmy McGuffin was on the other day. Jimmy, I love the guy. I love Damon. There's guys up there at my age doing this thing, and there's guys like the baby goat out there. So there's so much variety, and there's so many stories. And so it's a big step, an important step for us to start telling those stories. Tiger Woods golf. You can go through any sport and name the celebrity. That's what people come for. That's what people want to see. And frankly, a little bit of controversy doesn't help either. Doesn't hurt, I should say. Doesn't hurt.
Hey, I flat out, you heard me. I flat out told Trevor Brooks, this sport needs him.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, the sport needs someone like Trevor Brooks. I'm not afraid to say that. I mean, I get it. He's a polarizing figure, and he's very emotional, and he he has his opinions on things. I love that. I love everything about the spirit of him as a competitor. I really do. And he'd
it
be great
makes
for
it human. It makes it relatable.
Yes.
And we've got a guy, Matt Morantz, who's on board now for our executive producer, and he's been doing a great job. It's his background is telling stories. Every TV show, and he's won Emmys for it, have been around storytelling. And that's what we're after now. We're looking at a few exciting projects down the road that are going to help do that. But I think that's a very important piece to our growth right now. That, the live audience for our events, and all this stuff's going to help raise our game, raise our visibility, because we can't rely on the competition itself to do that all the time.
That is so perfect you said that. That actually, until Bernie and I got off on a different tangent today, that was going to be my rant today. because my family, we love sitting down and watching American Idol and The Voice, right? And I realize that there might be a lot of people watching this, this podcast, they just roll their eyes, whatever. Fred, they do the best job of storytelling. I mean, just last week I was writing these down. I mean, stories of depression, stories of suicide. There was a guy whose dad was a professional musician. He had a stroke. He can't play anymore. So now the son is kind of taking over where his dad could, to a level his dad could never rise to. Relatives or friends who pass away the week of the show or before, so they never get a chance to see them on national TV. And Fred, when I watch that, we have that. We have all these stories, and we don't have time. I mean, I wrote all these names down. Jay Rubin should have been in that car where they were all killed going, during holiday shopping season up to Wisconsin. Steven Bernasette, football player, breaks his neck, can't play sports anymore. He finds cornhole and it totally changes his life. Adam Hissner's best friend dies the week of a shootout in Memphis, and Adam wins it. Sarah Cassidy, we all know about her, working at Taco Bell. She'd never even flown on a plane before until cornhole. Nate Voyer being a teacher. Sam Finley tracking down a shoplifter and getting in a fight. Miranda Coy, I don't know why she doesn't sing anymore. She needs to. Brian Schramm, Brian Schramm, say what you want. He's got to work on his cornhole game. I get it. He was the guitarist for Uncle Kracker. I mean, come on. This is like big time stuff. It goes. John Fuentes, I found out this week, fell out of bed, out of a bunk bed when he was little, smashed his skull. He's lucky to be alive, and now he's playing cornhole. Trevor Brooks, we talked about it. I mean, I've got a long list.
It's almost as if we need a 30-minute pregame show to kind of.
But we need to tell these stories. But we need to watch American Idol. Watch The Voice. It's just a couple of minutes. It's just a couple of minutes. But it changes the way that you watch them perform. If we can just take a minute or two to tell some of these stories, it's going to change the way that someone watches the match. I mean, and we've got it. We've got all those elements, and I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah, that's what's happening now, and we're very much aware of that. And it's been a conscious effort. Last year, a lot of it got introduced. This year, you'll see more. But you're exactly right, and you've said it before on this podcast. The difference between this sport and other sports is the athletes are accessible. You can call, on the phone and ask them this or that, or we can go approach players about these things and get these kind of stories drawn out because they're so accessible and approachable. And I think that's gold right there, particularly as it relates to people and general audience being able to relate to these folks. And that's what it's about, being able to relate. American Idol, they're relating to these people because they're just like everybody. They're trying to make it. They're trying to do this and they're trying to get on. It's not somebody who's been, God gifted, athletic ability to be great at what they do. Fantastic. But not a lot of people can relate to that all the time. And we got much more relatable subject matter here.
All right, Fred, we got to run. We got 30 seconds left. So Bernie and I want to start. Bernie and I want to start like a podcast with like an old man podcast. All right, so we can talk about all the things that we've learned. So in 15 seconds, what's the biggest thing you've learned in your life that you now use every day? Do you think?
Respect other people, man. It really is so important. We talk a lot about the things we do and the things we create and use and this and that. And I can tell you after 30 some years in this business and in this career that I've got relationships now that I made back then and that are really important and meaningful now. We don't have a lot of time with what we do to go out and make friends and socialize a lot. It's all about our work, really. For me, it has been, unfortunately. But nonetheless, I've made some great friendships and known some good people and some good mentors. So what's important to me is, I provide that kind of a opportunity for the people on my team and work with me, particularly the newer ones coming in, give them, the opportunity to really do their job and to, and to make a difference. But don't forget the people, man. They're the ones that are going to be most meaningful as you go through your career and your life in general. So, I could say I've learned how to do this and that, but that's probably the one thing that's really the most important to me and what I've learned the most from.
15 seconds on the nose.
Yeah, right. All right, Fred, we got to run. Appreciate you, man. We'll see you down in Texas.
Thank you, man. I look forward to it.
All right, we'll do it again sometime. All right, Fred Bouchero. So true. I had a professor of mine in Kansas said, be good to the people on your way up because you never know when you might need them on the way down. So just respect everyone you work with. So, all right, we got to run.
Always.
All right, brother. Great show. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, everybody,
for
watching.
Week.
Yep. See you.